Call a meeting to order. It is 7:02. Roll call. I see that all of the board members are here except Andrew Antrigan, who does have an excused absence. And we have a few staff members. Adoption of agenda. Is there anybody who would like to make any changes, deletions? Larry?
Yeah, I'd like to add an item under Roman 10, item B, continuing business.
Okay, it's what?
It would be discussion of deleting an out-of-date and expired policy.
Down, I can't hear you.
Your microphone.
Oh,
Yeah.
but discussion of removing an out-of-date and expired policy.
Okay, you have it with you?
It's policy 1997-07.
Okay.
It's
We
the
haven't
dog
had a
park-
chance to look at it yet.
But well, you mean to look at an existing policy? This is not a new policy. This is an existing
all right.
policy
Okay.
to delete.
Okay, so B will put policy from 1997.
And that's different than what we have there now.
Okay, anything else? Hearing no other requests, shall we approve the agenda by acclamation with the update, with the addition of the section 10B? Announcements. Here.
Our pools are opening this weekend.
Hooray.
And so please check, if you're interested in enjoying our incredible pools, check the website, suddenvalley.com, for the schedule. The quiet pool over behind the library is open from 7 to 7 daily.
Yeah, I saw the main pool schedule, but I didn't see the side pool.
Okay, what I read this afternoon on the website
Okay.
was 7 to 7, and so that, I guess those times can always be changed. But 7 to 9, I would like that better. So, thank you.
Especially in hot weather.
And then the regular pool has a whole grid of its operational schedule for lap times and open swim times and so on, but it will also be open daily. Until Labor Day weekend, I believe.
Yeah, that's in the agenda.
Roughly.
We moved it
Yeah.
over into September last year because the weather was so nice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's subject to change.
Okay, and you need a microphone too,
If
please.
you want to see it, it's also on pages 10 and 11 of the agenda for tonight.
Okay, so I jumped in. Thank you.
She can go.
Oh, Carol?
Just a follow-up to that, I know we did leave it open, but we don't typically have lifeguards after school begins. So even though we left it open, didn't we have a restriction on who could use it?
The main pool was closed because we can't operate it without lifeguards, but the quiet pool was left open a little bit later just because the weather remained nice.
Perfect, thanks.
And then the question, last time we met, you were still missing 3 lifeguards? Not missing, but
We are
didn't have.
fully staffed.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, any other announcements?
I do have one quick one. Dirt moving season starts quickly, on the 1st.
June 1st, right?
Yeah, so that's another week away, roughly.
Right.
And so we'll be having some, this is when excavators start digging holes for new homes, and we can start actually doing a lot of marina grading work or other parking lot improvements. We can start doing pothole filling. We can
Right.
start doing a lot of the things that keep, that develop through the winter that we really want to take care of sooner, but we can't until June 1st, so I'm happy that we're there.
Anything else? All righty, moving on to property owner comments. No? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Up to the podium.
No, if you speak, you have to stay till the end.
I'm Chris Keller for Saffron Court. I sit on a couple of committees. I have a couple of observations that I wanted to pose. One is last year, towards the end of the year, there was a bunch of stuff about trying to provide some safety between the off-leash area and the swim area at the Marina Park. A bunch of community members got together and put together, hopefully what will be accepted later on as a new policy. It's now getting towards the time when the beaches, part of that was to provide more beach space because AM Beach and PM Beach are full up. So if they're going to be full up again and summer starting, I think it would be somehow in our best interest to kind of get this kind of rolling, whether that means putting in a new delineation, starting the signage or whatever it is. I know there's still some review that needs to be done, but it seems like it's taken a long time and it could be a couple months out before anything happens. And I don't know that that's really benefiting the community to keep waiting. Second thing on that is it was a substantial addition to that beachfront in the compromise between the different parties on that, which appears to have been taken over by canoe racks now. Not the exact same space that was given up, but the canoe racks take up somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet down there. Are those going to stay in that spot? Because they're right in the grassy area of the beach. And I'm not sure why they would be stored there. There's a gravel area right across where they were stored before that would seem more reasonable where we can save that space. If indeed the plan is to provide additional space for our residents to enjoy the beach, wouldn't it be better to have the canoe racks I think they're supposed to be put back. I don't know. I mean, it looks to me like the construction's done and the canoe racks are due to be returned. I'm just questioning that because it's been some time. So that's the two things I have to say. I really like the board of directors to try to take a look at helping us expand the beach access as soon as we can so that we can start to, so more residents can enjoy it and not be crowded at AM and PM Beach. And I know there's a big, long process. And we've been trying to go through it, and we've been misdirected in trying to get it. And I sit on the committee, that's a part of it. But it is a slow process, and summer's rapidly approaching, so I'm hoping that in some discussion that you guys might possibly be able to have, that we can kind of light a fire under that and get that going, because, like I said, summer's here, and people want to enjoy that beach.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, board comments? What can you tell us about the canoe racks, Joe?
Right now, they're located where they are. They are movable. We can move them anywhere we need to.
My understanding was that they were moved in order to do the work out on the spit. And do you know if there's any intention to put them back where they were?
I have no idea what the intentions are with those. I can move them. Again, they're very movable object.
Okay.
They'll take
That's a work in progress.
Yeah,
We're
it takes
working on
about
that.
5 minutes to move, 10
Yeah.
minutes to move them.
Okay. Anything, Eric?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. The canoe rack, the intention going into moving them away from the spit for the spit construction was a temporary intent.
That was what I thought.
And so I know that I have received complaints from the kayakers actually about the location is very awkward for them to be able to actually use it. The SUP, the rental and instructional facility down there is also impacted by it. It does take up, as Mr. Keller mentioned, that it does take up valuable space. Myself, Directors D'Angelo and Entrican and Brown went down there and looked at it last weekend, and it is it's something that we thought was, well, it might be time to pull the trigger on moving them back. However, we're not in the business of project management. And so I don't know if there was a specific timeline established about how long did the ground of the new beach area have to settle before new posts could be planted or
And,
anything like
and
that.
planting too, because
Okay.
we don't want to get in the way of that.
That's staff?
Yes.
Come back to us with a
Update.
proposal.
Just a point of information, SUPS is no longer a leaseholder down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the dog park area is a work in progress?
Yes.
We're working on it. We have no answers quite yet. Anything else from the board? Okay. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 sets of meeting minutes there.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously. General Manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. All right. Just some quick updates here. All the 5 lots that we had with Remax that we had taken back have all now been sold. The total is $13,521.
That was more than we spent on it.
Yeah.
Just a couple dollars.
And we now have dues paying,
And we have, plus we have 5 dues paying lots, so. Counting, Jennifer and I have sat with all the managers. We finished it up this morning to go ahead and start all the budget assumptions and put it all together to turn into the Finance Committee, which will be next Wednesday night, so. That,
29th.
huh?
The 29th.
29th, yeah. Yeah, so we have all that package will be delivered to you guys. Also, in the last board meeting, there was a question about the quiet pool and about the heaters and the pumps and all that. That is to be replaced this fall. That is in the reserve study, and that will be replaced.
This is a question not about the pool, but about the previous item. That's the meeting with managers and starting the budget process.
We've put it all together, yeah. The budget that, we've taken the assumptions from the board, we put it kind of back together, and then we will turn it over to the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee will have a couple weeks to look at it, and then we start the presentation to the managers to the Finance Committee.
I just wanted to convey to you that during the Parks Committee meeting this week, one of our dock masters indicated that there were expenses, and it was unclear how his recommendations for necessary expenses and budget items, how those could be incorporated in this process. And I don't know if Maddie spoke to you about that or
Not
not.
about the dock masters, there's no one really in charge of the marina. It's kind of fallen in my lap, so I'm the one who's dealing with any changes or revenues and expenses.
Then get in touch with the dock masters, because I know Rob in particular made that request, and he's got some I think a couple of good ideas and a couple of concerns that he wants to raise about budgeting for that specific area.
Okay.
Did you ask him to please get in touch with staff to have that discussion?
I'll
Okay.
get in touch with Rob.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay,
Right now, we have 4 new home construction packages in. I believe we had a meeting with Rich yesterday. I think we're ending up with about 15 right now, maybe 20 for the end of the year.
That's the estimation right now.
Is what we're looking at for the rest of the year. Town Square, we have 280 members registered, 87 more just this month alone, so, or last month, so. Also, this month, Jennifer set up an Amazon business account to streamline our purchasing there in an effort to hopefully save us some money with accounting. It streamlines how everything is done in her office with all of her staff. So it's going to be a nice thing down there. It's going to take up less time. So we have sat down and started talking with a payroll company to do some benchmarking to make sure that we are in the ballpark with a new $13.50 coming in for minimum wage in the state of Washington. So we're working with a company out of Seattle that will help us get a better benchmark and build some pay band type scales so that we can, the wage compression won't be so bad, and we'll work it out over the next few years. So we're going to have an actual company outsource that for us and get us all that information, so it's a valuable tool for both Lisa and Jennifer going forward for our budgeting and making sure that the employees are compensated correctly. We had a quick meeting yesterday morning with Comcast. We are reviewing all of our television contracts with them. Most of them are out of contract and have been out for many years. So we will be addressing that. We are, as Lisa said, we are fully staffed at the pool. We are ready to go for that. So we have all our lifeguards. The last one was onboarded this afternoon. And as Eric said, yes, the pools are open, or will be opening. Everything has been cleaned. If anybody's been there, the pools are right around, I think, 78 to 80 degrees, heated wise. Pool chairs are out. Everything is ready to go on that end. So that come Saturday morning, the pools will be ready to go. And hopefully it's a nice weekend and everybody enjoys them. We also worked with WECU, as some of you know, to go ahead and get the cardio equipment. Signed paperwork on that this week. Over the last few months, Maddie has became a certified pool operator through National Swimming Pool Foundation. So she is now a certified pool operator, which is a nice thing to have as head of recreation.
So the heaters that we purchased at the last meeting, they've all been installed?
Installed
ready to go?
installed
Okay.
and running.
Yeah, good.
And as you see, there is the schedule for everything at the pools on page 10 and 11. It looks like it gets used quite a bit, so there's everything that they will have this summer. Golf through May 17th is 12% higher than last year. Knowing that the fees went up, I asked the question, how many rounds of golf? Because that's a true measure. Last year through the 17th of May, they had 4,871 rounds. I had to get this after, so it's not in your report. Year to date, the same time is 6,069 rounds. We're just 2 rounds short of 1,200 more over the same course of time.
Wow.
And that's even
That's
being
this year.
missing.
That's this year.
Yeah, that is missing February too.
Yeah, it's missing
Yeah.
6 weeks
Yeah.
of golf.
So have we had enough time to evaluate possible reasons for this huge bump? Is this, could this be due to more advertising, more effective advertising, having a director of marketing?
We're into it only 5 months. I'm going to say it's probably all factors. Course condition, but weather, even though I lost 6 weeks, I think it has a lot to do with the marketing, the advertising. I think a big push was that we did have the U.S. Senior Open qualifier, and then next month we have the Washington State Women's Amateur. We also have a tournament in the fall that is a college event. So I think it's a combination of all factors. Golf is still relatively flat across the country. You know, the X amount of
So
people
this
go
is
in.
really significant then?
Yeah, golf hasn't really grown much as far as players. If you look at the national averages over the last couple of years, you lose 0.5%, you gain 0.5%, so it stays pretty static. So I think a lot of it is just a combination of everything.
We have a good product here.
We have a great product here.
Yeah.
We have a very solid product here. And having played in the senior qualifier, the golf course was incredible. And it showed very well. The golf course showed very well for the 65 players. Nothing but rave reviews. So I think that's a lot of it as well.
Yeah.
Should I ask how you did?
No, you shouldn't.
You're more than welcome to.
To ask.
I will tell if you want to know. If you want to know, I will tell you. I shot 82. I had 40.
Well done.
Yeah, that was all right. It was a scrap.
As you said, the course showed very well.
It showed very well, yes. Golf carts, the capital that you guys had approved for the extension of life, all the carts now are current. They're all completed, ready to go. So that was a big thing to get off of Jacob and his crew and everybody, so that all the carts that we had done are done and ready, they're going actually. Our veg control has started. Pretty much Harborview has been where they've been at right now. And we also have on the website every day of where their progress is, where they're going to be the next morning, and it juggles a little bit, but at least it's out there so the community can see where they stand and try to work around them. The fire company has been doing some training at the standpipe. They've been down there, I think just about every weekend, have they not, Mike? Yeah, because I can see them, and they're down there, and they are using the standpipe as a training right now, so, which is a nice thing that they're actually using the work that we put in down at the marina. We have got a from Traffic Solutions, it's a camera, speed control. We have that in, we have it for 30 days, and we're just going to move it around the community and see what we can find. It'll be an interesting thing because it does have camera. It has messages. It's a pretty neat machine. I know Eric knows a lot about it, and it'll be fun. We'll just bounce it around the community and see what we can gather as far as data and information from it. So.
Are you taking suggestions on where to put it?
I will take suggestions anywhere anybody wants to put it.
Within reason.
Yeah, we'll put it anywhere. I think it's a good thing to bounce it around on every couple day basis, kind of like the troopers do out on the road. You move your setup and hopefully catch people. So, not that we can do anything with it, but at least it gives the community a sense that we are trying to work on slowing everything down.
Well, it is going to do more than that. It's going to add to the database that we're creating over the past, we're in our second year now of building a database of traffic information, speeds and counts of different locations, like those rubber hoses that we've been putting out for the past, since a year ago, April. We move them every week and to a different area of concern, and we have, the area that it's at right now is due to a petition of members. How many members signed to that petition to ask us to investigate?
25.
25 members of a particular neighborhood made a petition and asked us to investigate. And so this is another device that is very justified in, I think if we see that it's useful, it's justified in our purchase of it, just like we did for those rubber hoses back a year and a half ago. And so it's going to be very useful in helping the community and helping us figure out how to calm traffic in areas where it is actually a problem. And
Well, any tool that we could have in our arsenal for the health, safety, and welfare of the community it's paramount.
Yes.
I mean, again, we can't really write citations off of it, but the perception is that we are watching.
Yep.
Norm and I have been working, since the board has approved July 4th fireworks, we are working on a safety and security plan so that everything is well taken care of down there. Hopefully no one gets hurt. That's the ultimate goal. Everybody just has some fun. That is all I have right now. Any questions?
Sarah, go ahead.
I have a question on page 4, the dues collection spreadsheet. Are these cumulative or are they individual months for the monthly collection rate percentage?
If you look at
The individual months and the last month is cumulative.
April's is cumulative?
Correct.
So cumulative based on all of those months or just 2019?
2019, year to date, through April 30th.
So I guess, well, I have two questions. One, what February and March were really low. I thought in the past we've talked about January dues being, the percentage being lower. People are coming off of Christmas and all of that stuff we usually see, but it looks like February and March were lower. They're also, well, I can only see back to March, but March and April are lower than March and April of last year.
You know
And
what?
those, oh, sorry.
Oh, I apologize for interrupting.
I was just, April looks better, but for it to be 95.8 cumulative for 19, it would have to be, I mean, those are really low numbers to get up to 95% cumulative. That doesn't make sense to me, I guess. I don't understand.
Thank you for pointing that out. I believe that there's an error in January and February, so I'll go back and review those numbers.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Question on page 1. The third bullet down, we are now talking about projects that we are going to be starting, and including culverts, micro sealing, potholes, the Aries East berm structure, barn 6 demolition, recreation corridor parking lot. And these are all projects that we can expect to see completed this year by the beginning of October.
They have to be completed due to the fact of the scope of work. I have to have them done when the earth moving has to cease. So
Okay.
they were, P&W, we are working right now. We've got some flow charts for all these projects, and we're ready to go. Everything has been out to bid, and is a process of coming back now, getting ready to go.
So we've got 1 week to get this started.
Yep.
Good.
Question on that item as well. How should I discuss, and with whom, an issue on Sudden Valley that is due to be recovered? The issue is that there is a spot that every time rainy season hits,
Okay.
this spot leaks a huge amount of water. It comes out, it's like an underground spring that just sprouts out of the, not quite the middle, but the middle of the road. And then this time of year, all you see is a crack with a little bit of black patching on it. I'm very concerned that if we put some new covering on it, that the water pressure during the wet season will just bubble it up and peel it off.
Get with me, and take me out to the site, and we will look at it. And I will get with Norm, and we'll see what we can do.
Phil, good.
Just a reminder too, the pool is opening on Saturday. In order to get in, you do need to have your member card. If you got one last year, it's still good, is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And if anybody does not have a card, if they're new members in the community, where do they go?
Cool. They go to the rec center. They come over here to get all their passes.
Okay, here in the rec center.
Here in the rec center.
Okay.
Every swimmer also has to have a waiver on file. So they don't have to be renewed from last year, but anybody that gets an access card has to fill out a waiver. And that includes guests and
Okay, I just want to make sure people know what to do. Anything else? Okay, moving on to, getting to this back again. The finances. Oh, no.
Calendar.
Did you, the calendar first, which is on page 20, the election calendar. And you did find a second sheet in front of your seats that is a replacement for the one that's in the packet.
It's an update. Jennifer, do you want to describe what you've changed on this one so we all know?
Sure, the June 26th, there's no board meeting. Originally, those were going to be the dates that we were going to present to the board, and they got moved to July 10th and 11th. So there's nothing on the 26th. It's blank, corrected on the copy in front of you. And then the RCW, the last line of the RCW did not print in the version in the packet.
I believe that we did postpone this because we needed to make an addition based on the date that the board has to approve the budget in order to be in aligned with the RCW. So this is did we have a motion on the floor before that we tabled, or?
I believe it was tabled. There was no
Tabled?
motion brought
I
to
don't
the
even
floor.
think we got to a motion.
No, I believe everything was tabled until we have the dates more
Right,
solid.
okay, so basically we're bringing it back on the table.
There may have been a motion to approve the calendar, and then
Table.
I made a motion to table.
Yeah, I believe it's tabled. It was never.
It was tabled.
So
It was
we do
tabled.
have-
It was never
We have a
voted
motion
on.
on the table then. If you made the motion and then it was
I
tabled.
didn't make the motion.
I don't know
just,
who made it.
Does anybody remember making it?
I'm looking at my notes
Okay,
to
because
see.
I don't remember hearing it, but hey.
Yeah, I think it was discussed just to be tabled until later date and time.
I just can't find
Okay.
the actual.
So in that case, further discussion.
Yes.
Eric?
Since I have been just looking at the one that was placed in front of us, I'm trying to identify when, are we still looking at the approval of the budget in August? Is that?
It would be down here on August the 22nd. It's in the dark blue, which is the
Okay.
board actions.
I believe that that would be making our entire schedule with respect to the RCW very tight. It would require us to perform, not us, but our vendors to perform within a very tight couple of days schedule of when we request something.
You're talking about printing the ballots?
That, and because if we count backwards from November 2nd, which is our vote,
Yes.
we have a minimum of 14 days and a maximum of 50 days, according to the RCW, for the vote to occur after we present the measure to the members.
Board approves the budget.
Okay.
Right.
And so that means that the latest that we could give it to them is October 19th. And the earliest we could give it to them is September 13th. Now, if we gave it to them on September 13th, we have a maximum of 30 days before that where we can decide on the budget here at the board level. And that is very close to the 22nd of August. And so my real suggestion would be any time in September, the board can actually vote on the budget.
Okay, so you're saying the August 22nd date is too early?
I believe it's too early because that would make everything have to run squeaky clean just to stay inside of the RCW's requirements. And so if we do it any time in September, that gives us wiggle room with vendors. If a printing problem happens like it did 2 years ago, where we had to reprint ballots and send them out, there's just a vast number of hiccups that can happen in this process, and we can give ourselves room for error if we simply wait. And I know it sounds counterintuitive to wait to give ourselves room to error, but because we can't exceed a specific number of days for each of these milestones, we really would box ourselves in by making the decision in August, when in September we would have the entire month, actually literally the month and a half of ability to overcome any
So that would mean
problems.
that the September 3rd date, that materials are sent to the printer but also have to be moved?
Correct.
Okay. Discussion? Sarah?
What date is being recommended to stay within the window that we would actually do the approval and then send to the printer, which would look to me like it's about 10 days later, 10 to 12
Sarah?
days later?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just confused because Eric's saying one thing, but this packet's saying the same 14 to 50 days, but it's saying that we have to do it by the 3rd of September. Is that contradictory to what you're thinking, Eric, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, what's recommended here in the spreadsheet is contradictory to what I'm saying. If you count 14 days back from November 2nd, you arrive at October 19th. October 19th is the drop dead date for us to have the ballots to members, right, according to RCW. Now, the RCW says minimum of 14 days, a maximum of 50 days.
Okay, what's the 50-day date?
50 days is the 13th of September. So we cannot get the ballots to the members before the 13th of September.
Right.
Okay? That means we could do the 3rd of September, But what I'm saying, why have a special meeting when we have the entire month and a half of September and October, really, that we could do it? Why not just have it at a regular board meeting?
I'm hearing two different things here.
You're
One,
right, you're right.
yeah, one is the time at which we have to have the ballots in the members' hands. And the other one is once we approve the budget, is there any constraint on us on how soon we have to get it to the members?
Yes,
So the
there
two
is.
things are going to have to
There
be.
is.
Yeah,
That
if
is
you
the
look at,
30-day requirement.
if you look at the RCW that's quoted,
Yeah.
the board has 30 days to meet that window of 50 or 14.
Right.
So the
Okay.
board can vote and then has 30 days to get its act together. And then,
And then they
let's
have to
say
slip
it
into
takes
that
30
window.
days, that 30 days must end somewhere within
Right.
that 50 to 14-day time window.
Right.
Okay.
Think,
But if you vote the 22nd, you would fall in that window
The 22nd
of
of...
August. You would fall in that 50
Oh,
to 40.
it would, however, it would give us not any wiggle room for a printer error.
well, here's my thought. If we voted on the 22nd, then that gives us 30 days to act. 30 days to act is, I'll just roughly call it the 22nd of September.
It's the 21st of September.
Okay, it's 21st of September. That is within that window of time, and if the printer, we give it to the printer, let's say on the 22nd, then the printer
Of
has...
September?
Yeah, and then the printer has a week to get it right, and then they screw up, they have a week to fix it, that's still the 4th or 7th of October, and then we still have another week and a half to mail it. So I'm not sure that voting on the 22nd is bad, but the major window that we have to meet is somewhere between September 13th and October 19th. So whatever else, that's all we really have to pay attention to.
Okay, Mike?
Well, don't we also have to pay attention to how long it takes for the printer to print
Yeah.
So-
And the mail.
and mail? Yeah, what are those?
Well, the mail
Parameters.
is when you put it in the mail.
I know.
Okay, the way that, because there's a lot of the printing materials that we can do without a vote, all the envelopes, the exterior envelopes, the secrecy envelope, the blue envelope, those just get changed with dates. So we can send those to the printers immediately, so they get that done. All they're waiting for is a ballot and the booklet. And that generally has a 10-day turnaround time. Whenever we send things to the printer, I try to leave at least 7 days. Because, I mean, as you know, a couple of years ago, they sent out a bunch of ballots that weren't even stuffed. And so we had literally 1 day to get them to resend everything. So it obviously went in our favor, but we try to leave a lot more time to make certain that we don't have a situation like that again. But it's 10 days.
Okay, and I suspect that also matters as to how much we have on the ballot.
It does. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One more consideration. September 3rd is the date that candidates have to have their applications in. Therefore, we won't know until the end of day who will candidates be, and we won't know what we have to send to the printer on that day until we get, that, and we haven't designed the booklets or or the ballots. So I don't think that you can send anything to a printer by September 3rd. It's got to be several days after that.
I agree. That date clearly has to be moved.
Right.
I would propose then that we move the date of our, to approve the budget and all of the other, everything else that's going to go in the ballot to the first board meeting of September.
Mike?
The question is that the motion that's on the floor right now, I believe that motion was to accept the calendar as it was originally stated. And so therefore that would have to be voted on before you could get a motion from Director Trout.
Okay, I think we have to have an amendment to the motion because we tabled it because we didn't have a final date. We knew it had to change somewhere. So I think we need an amendment. Carol?
I can't find the records that say who made the motion,
Or
who
what it was.
tabled it, or any of that, only that it happened on May 2nd. But I don't know if we can, without knowing who it was, I think we should withdraw that motion and start over. It just seems simpler to me to start with this calendar rather than trying to go back and amend
I
the
was
old.
just going to say exactly the same thing. We as a board can just vote, whatever we talked about last meeting is withdrawn, period. And we're going to start fresh with this calendar, and then
Okay. Is there an objection to that, just withdrawing the calendar from the original motion?
Fabulous.
Yeah, okay. All right, start fresh. Here's this calendar, and now we will adjust this one.
And yeah, it's not moved yet, so we're free to make changes.
Great.
Okay.
Was that from
Okay.
the second?
I'm ready to make a motion then.
All right.
Our first,
Actually, I would suggest, since we haven't moved this, that we're still just basically discussing a proposal that hasn't yet been presented to the board. So let's just keep it relaxed
Agreed.
and make a
so we-
suggestion. We're talking, we'll just have it, change it, and then we can move it as done.
Okay. What is your suggestion, not your motion?
okay, my suggestion, I mean, really, there's only one critical date that we're trying to arrive here on the calendar to. Because we know that November 2nd is going to be, that's the drop dead,
Okay.
that's the day of the vote. And so we're just really simply trying to arrive at the date that the board is going to vote on budget approval and the AGM agenda. Is that right?
Yeah, and then we're going to have to adjust this material to the printer also.
Oh, certainly.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
But that would come,
if we did that, when?
well, my proposal would be September, our regular early month board meeting on September 12th
Okay.
would be
Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay, hearing none, we'll just
Does
kind of
staff
pencil.
have a problem with that?
It's a pretty streamlined process now. And so the measure booklet is pre-formatted. So we talk about the September 2nd date when the candidates, when we finally shut the door on the candidates, we're already formatted. Most of the candidates, all but like one or two are in. So we can turn that around in 24 hours because everything else is already done.
okay, so that works beautifully for the next week's board meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that would mean that after the board meeting of the 13th.
12th.
I'm sorry, the 12th, you're right, the 12th of September. Then we would have to get the measure materials to the printer.
And the staff should have that pretty well defined, having
Right,
been given
at
that
that
extra
point. Yeah.
10 days or whatever.
And so I don't even know
Yeah.
that we even really need to, it's on the schedule down here toward the bottom in yellow, but I think that entire line is incorrect.
Yeah.
Measure materials to printer and board deadline for voting on budget, that's not
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
I'd agree to deleting that whole thing. We
Yes.
just know we need to send it to the printer immediately.
Yeah, as soon as possible. In fact, it has to be to the members by October 19th. That's just the thing that we have to know.
Okay. Is it staff's suggestion then as to when they would like to send the materials to the printer?
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Sooner the better.
After the 12th.
When, I don't like cutting myself to a week. It puts us in a very bad position.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the sooner we get it done and get it to the printer and get it out to the membership, that is first and foremost.
Right.
So if we vote on.
As long as we fit in the schedule with the state, I think this gets out as soon. You do not dally on it, you get it done, and you move on. Because if something happens, we get ourselves caught in a corner, all of us are done.
Yeah. So if we vote on it on the 12th, then the following Monday is the 16th. We can just plan on sending it to the printer on the 16th.
I would send it the 13th.
I agree.
13th?
There's no, we can't, God forbid something happens to the printer and we're done.
Right.
I think the sooner we get it to the printer, the sooner we get it voted on, the sooner we get everything done and to the printer. I don't care if we vote on it, if you come in here on the 4th and vote on it, or the 5th. I think the sooner we can get a vote from you guys as a board and get the material to the printers is the most important thing.
I agree with that. Voting on the 12th gives us an entire month and a week.
But I got 10 days turnaround to get it printed, and if there's a mistake or a problem, you just cut me off even shorter.
Oh, sure, but
So I don't think you go the 12th. I think you do this as quickly as possible. You do not hedge your bets on the short side.
we cannot get it to the, we cannot get it mailed before the 13th.
That's fine.
For sure.
It's 10 days turnaround to print. So even if everything goes perfect and we have everything approved by the 5th of September, I got 15, that's the 15th before I can get it out of the printer.
Okay.
That's well after the 13th.
And that
So-
still gives another month for any,
Exactly. Anything that could go wrong.
Okay. Larry?
I have a suggestion based on the comment that Joe just made. Why don't we have that second August board meeting on the 29th, or move the first September board meeting to an earlier day? Maybe the 5th, I don't know.
sure.
It's, yeah, okay, yeah.
My comment was just, even if we do get it printed earlier, they don't have to mail it.
That's right.
It could be printed and sitting there until we give them the go-ahead to mail it. So
Yeah.
by getting it printed earlier, it could sit there and wait for us to say, okay, it's ready to mail. So,
And I'm liking the idea of changing the date, the first date in September to the 5th.
Yeah.
And that should give them a couple of days to, get the candidates.
So did I finish my motion?
No.
It's not a motion.
There's no motion.
I don't think we have another floor yet.
We've dealt with one of the two issues.
Okay. Carol, did you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to say, I agree with Joe. I mean, if we have any kinds of issues, the net effect of that is the AGM is canceled. And that would be, I can't remember the last time, I don't know if that's ever happened.
As far as
Yeah.
I'm in here. Yeah.
So I agree that we give every possible amount of time we can. We just don't know how things are going to go. We all feel like we know what's going to be on the ballot and so forth, but any little bit of glitch or change that we're going to make, so to your point, I would not do any printing until it's been approved by the board, because it would be just like one of us to say, I might say, you know what, I've been thinking about this particular item, and everybody agrees.
You don't get that luxury, sorry.
Oh, but you know what? It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, I
I'm just saying, we can't jump the gun in one way because we want to save ourselves a meeting. I would go to an extra meeting if it took that to make the decision to
right.
get it done in a timely fashion, as long as it isn't putting us under the gun in some other way. So the 5th at the latest, I say, in my mind.
Forgive me for being obtuse, then why don't we stick with the original August 22nd for the vote?
Because, okay.
That-
The third, the printer date is the
We're
bad
not talking
one.
about
Yeah.
the printer date, we're
Yeah,
talking
the-
about the
This is
vote.
the approval
The
date.
22nd could be done if we move the printer date, because we're not going to have all the information we need on September 3rd.
Yeah, printer dates are pretty,
Yeah, that can be pushed out.
right, they're somewhat flexible after that.
I'll just, to clarify, if we vote on the 22nd, we have to mail it essentially Friday, Saturday, the 21st of September. So the issue is, if you need 10 or 15 days to print, then that's really getting tight.
Right.
So if you wait until the 29th, then you're pushing that 30 days out until we'll call it the 28th of September.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm hearing two dates, August 29th and September 5th.
Okay, August 29th, either one, August 29th or September 5th. It doesn't really matter, but maybe for ease and comfort of staff, maybe we'll go with the 29th. How about that? Do you guys feel better?
Okay.
So change the 22nd meeting to the 29th?
Yeah, that can be done too. And so I'm hearing we want to move the date for the board to vote on the budget to August the 29th. And then the materials to go to the printer, if you push that out from the 3rd to the 5th, that'll work too. Okay.
So is there a board meeting on the 5th also then?
No, that's not a board meeting. That is just the staff sending the materials to the printer. We don't have to get involved in that.
Okay.
So,
I do have a question. So once we get the materials to the printers, there's always several board members that proof them. And I don't know if that's something you want to put on the calendar.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? There are always several what?
Board members that proof them. That when we get the proofs back from the printers, we sit there together and go through every single item to make sure there's no typos.
Okay, there's no date for that
It's usually, yeah, that's what I don't know if you want to put that on the calendar or not. That was my question.
let's do it.
I would say that with the schedule that we're now discussing, I would say that the 12th is the perfect date for the board to go over it, because it cannot be put in the mail before the 13th.
And the latest date to put in the mail is the 28th.
No, the latest date to put in the mail is October 19th, according to the state law.
Right, to put it in the mail is October the 19th.
that's lots of room.
But I wouldn't wait that long.
Yeah, oh, no.
Mike?
Normally, the proofreading is just done by, not by the board in its entirety at a meeting. It's done by a few members that
Right.
sit in the back part of Alagave and
Right.
read it over and
So we've done a
word by
Saturday
word.
morning, or
Yeah,
whenever
exactly.
convenient. Yeah, so we don't have to put that.
I don't know
We
if you
don't have to
need
put it on
it.
the calendar.
If you don't,
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
And I withdraw that because I realize who knows when it's going to come back from the printer. So,
Anna?
I can arrange a meeting to have that done for my committee, since that's what I do. I can just invite the board members. Just let me know you're interested. Okay.
All right.
You have another?
We kind of firmed it up, Jennifer.
I just want to clarify, so the way that I'm reading the RCW is to say that within 30 days after the board adopts the budget, we have to mail the budget, because the board has to provide a copy of the budget to all unit owners. So wouldn't that mean that the mailing deadline, if the vote was on the 29th, would be the 28th of September?
Yes.
That's true.
Okay.
You're right, yes.
Great,
Sorry.
thank you.
Okay.
Should we add, I'd like to add that into the,
Okay.
Perfect.
We'll get a motion on the floor. We'll make it.
okay.
All right, is there any other, what I'm hearing is we would like to have the board vote on August 29th, and that ask staff to send it to the printer on September 5th. And that would mean changing our August board meeting from the 22nd to the 29th.
Shall I make
If that is
motion?
what we're agreeing on, would anybody like to make that motion?
I would make that motion.
I'll
And
second.
okay, good. Second.
I'll second.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to move the August board meeting from the 22nd to the 29th, to vote on the budget on that date on the 29th, and have staff send the ballot materials to the printer on September the 5th. More discussion? Are we good?
yeah, otherwise, the rest of this is printed.
I think Jennifer said something about the mailing deadline. I think that should be added on the
It
28th.
would move from October 2nd to September 28th, if
Right.
Yes.
I'm reading that correctly.
Yes.
And so actually that would mean that it has to be mailed between September 13th and September 28th.
But the 28th is the deadline.
Yes. Well, they're both limits.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
both
you have to have
applicable.
both? Well, it
right.
might be good to put them both in then,
So
between that.
mailing,
Materials being
printed, sent to the printer on the 5th, to be mailed no earlier than the 13th of September and no later than the 28th of September.
Still
Is
second.
that an amendment?
I think that's still the same motion.
Still the same motion,
It's
okay?
written as one motion.
Okay,
And I second that.
all right. All right, anything else? All those in favor? We have a motion, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the financial statement, starting on page 21. Who's on paper? Okay.
Okay, these are the financial statements through April 30th. We continue to have positive net operating assets, currently at almost $800,000. Our capital lease for our golf carts has just gotten paid off, and so you'll notice down under long-term liabilities that that's zero, and we'll have a new lease for our fitness equipment that will start this month. The funding was just approved, so the fitness equipment will be on the way. If we go to the next page, page 22, you can see that year-to-date our collections rate is 95.8%. So we're doing fantastic there. Additionally, golf income is up $26,000. We have done a little bit better in our marina collections than anticipated, so that means we've rented more dry slips than we thought we would. So that's great news.
Yeah.
Let's see. Salaries and benefits are a little bit over as anticipated due to the end-of-year raises that were given after the budget was already approved, though we still predict to end on closer to budget as a company for that due to the funds that were transferred for snow removal. You also see the snow removal transfer down there for $94,600. On page 23, we have the reserve cash balance and activity schedule. So these are all of our capital funds and our operating reserve funds. So SURF, with the request that we currently have, we'll have $614,000. So if, assuming that all of the A priority items are brought to the board, we'll have approximately $100,000 in SURF at the end of the year. Since those items haven't been approved yet, they're not reflected in this schedule. For roads, given the projects that are approved, of about $390,000, and it'll be closer to 30, I believe, available after all the projects are approved this year. Though some of our projects are coming in under budget, so perhaps that'll be better. We're going to bring to finance next week. The capital reserve holding fund, that's the 1/4 or 1% from home sales, and so that is at $357,000, and those funds can be used for either SURF or roads projects for in the future. We've got the board density reduction fund. Property taxes get paid out of there for our commercial property, I guess. So the rec center gets paid out of operations, but lots that we have that we still pay property taxes on if they're buildable, which are very few now. We don't actually have any that are sellable. Will come out of the board density reduction fund. And all the lots that we have remaining have been converted into green space, but there's a waiting period between a year and a year and a half, depending on when you file for your green space restriction, before you stop paying the property taxes on that. So they're slowly starting to fall off. Then we have mailbox. We are collecting in that in advance of when we're going to need the money. That's so exciting. So 15 years from now, when the mailboxes need to be replaced, we're going to have the money to do that. Someday we'll be there with our other funds, but not yet. And then we have our assignment of savings, so that $165,000 to the Lake Whatcom Water and Sewer District, $135,000, excuse me, will get released later this year after the fire hydrants put in Area Z. UDR has $218,849 after the transfer out for the snow expenses. By department, year to date, we have ACC Security doing better than budget. We have a lot of new home starts. That income gets recorded in there. Accounting is targeted to finish on track at the end of the year on budget, so is administration. Common Cost is doing better than budget right now. We haven't had as many legal expenses year to date, so we may or may not finish on budget there. Facilities is just a little bit better than budget, but target on track to finish on budget, and maintenance is a little bit better than budget, but we'll probably finish on budget. The marina, that's the bulk of the activity in marina. There might be some small repair projects that come up or things that need to be purchased down there, but all the income's in. The rec center is doing great. I did transfer, originally a couple of items, income for the rec center was budgeted in facilities, so like picnic shelter rentals, the parks people set up for that, and rental of space in this building was in facilities, and so I moved that over to rec, since rec does all the setup and takedown, and so they're actually budgeted to have a small profit at the end of the year. Though since they had all that additional maintenance work done, painting the rooms downstairs, it should break even. And then we have a couple projects that are approved at UDR, Area Z mitigation, that's coming to a close. The Ken's Cozy Kitchen is funded through June, so we'll need to revisit that to see if we want to continue subsidizing that for the rest of the year. And the snow removal, then they help us with the gym. The snow removal services was discussed last month. And that's it. Any questions?
I have one question on that page, page 24. Why is the maintenance showing negative other actual expenses? It's putting them way better than budget, but it's because expenses are coming up negative?
Well, that's because we had the big transfer out of there. So first of all the snow expenses were recorded in maintenance, and then they were transferred from maintenance into UDR. And so that was transferred this month in April, and so it creates a big negative. That 94,600 was transferred out.
April, not year to date.
Yeah, this is only April. The next page is year to date. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this relates directly, but what I was hearing is that our reserves, in particular our SURF, seem to be doing well. So this is a question less for you and more for the Finance Committee. Can we determine whether it is a reasonable risk to go ahead and make a decision now to get Barn 6 torn down this year, even though we don't necessarily know yet until the close of dirt season how well the Area Z project is going to do? Do we have that kind of funding flexibility? Because it would be an incredible shame if we put that project off until some other year that has been hanging on forever.
The scope of work for this whole project of the SURF project from 2 years ago or a year and a half ago includes the demolition of Barn 6.
Right.
If the funds are available. And I have to tell you, though, we have provided plenty of funds to do this. I would be, as treasurer, I would be hesitant to make any kind of such recommendation until we get into the actual process. I trust PNW. I trust the bids that have gone out and all that is being done, and that things are, but we don't know what we don't know yet. And I would not want to make any commitment on Barn 6 funding. And if you're thinking it could come out of SURF, I don't think we have the money to set aside the other A priorities to commit to that right now. So my answer would be no. I would not want to make that commitment at this point in time. I think we just have to wait and see if staff has a different idea. I'm open to it, and finance could discuss it, but I don't think it's advisable yet to do that. I know it would be a shame. It's an eyesore, and it's even probably scary. But I'd rather put, if we had to, I'd rather put fencing around it to keep people from getting near it if it becomes that bad. What, Joe, do you have any comments on that?
The goal is to get Barn 6 down this year. I don't know what we're going to run into over in Area Z. It's just like ripping a piece of sheetrock off a wall. You don't know what's behind it. Once we get the structure out of the ground, then we'll have a much better idea of where we stand.
The structure out of the ground.
I need a footing. I need footers. So once I get that done and get that coming up out of the ground, then it's just putting a building on top of it, which we already have as a prefab.
But yeah, he's talking about the sprung structure going out at areas.
So in other words, once you have finished off those footings, then you'll have a better
Yeah, I mean,
idea.
if I don't run into anything there, it's just gonna be simple excavation, simple pour. I don't know what's in there yet. You might hit a VW bus, you just don't know. Until we get in there and find out, we just have to wait and see. Once the pad is done and out of the ground, we're good.
When do you expect that might be?
I'll have to look at my schedule and I'll let you know. I don't know, I don't have the flow chart in front of
The
me.
stuff
right
in
now.
front of you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
understood.
gonna say, I know by July, middle of July, if we are, give or take a little bit, if we're ready.
You think there'd be a lot of permitting to do to get that barn taken down?
That's already in process.
It's already in
Yeah,
process, so.
everything is in process.
Well, what I'm hearing sounds good, so I appreciate the information.
Sure. Sorry, one more question on page 28, the lot and dues analysis one. Is the actual 1 month dues, 2 month dues, 3 month dues, is that like 30, 60, 90 days late? Like, is that kind of our aging? Is that, okay.
That's correct.
Anything else on the finances? Okay. Moving on to committee reports and voting is necessary. We'll go through these quickly. ACC shows the minutes have been posted for April 18th and May 2nd as submitted. Communication,
Nothing to report.
okay. Document review,
As submitted.
okay. EPC,
As submitted.
okay. Long Range Planning Company, we do have the minutes submitted. The 5 different subcommittees have submitted their charters to the Long Range Planning Committee, and they have been approved. They are in the process now of breaking it down into individual tasks and moving on from there. Nominations and elections?
Nothing to report yet.
Work hasn't started yet, has it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Soon.
This week.
Parks and Trails?
As submitted.
As submitted, okay. All right, moving on to continuing business and voting is necessary. We have the bylaws per the 2018 AGM. Larry, why don't you walk us through and show us where changes have been made for the
Okay.
AGM?
The problem had been that there were some typographical errors in the ballots as printed. Those errors were located. They seemed to the document review committee to be extremely minor. So we asked, we had forwarded to Corporation Counsel the question of what we needed to do. Did they need to be voted on, or could they be simply corrected as what are typically called scrivener's errors? And he came back with the best possible answer, which is fix them, go forward. So where they are located, because they're not highlighted here, this is printed as it should appear on the web, so I have to.
Page 10.
Oh, here we go, yeah. So it's pages 5 and 33, depending on which one you look at. In the middle of the page, you'll see paragraph D, any member entitled to vote. And then underneath that, you'll see paragraphs E, F, and G. The ballot had incorrectly listed the paragraph E and paragraph F as paragraph, I'm trying to think now.
Something else.
Something
doesn't
else,
matter.
D and E, whatever. It called them
okay.
something else, which made it duplicative. And so anyway, they're there. E and F are as voted on and as renumbered so that they fit into the general text of this section.
And then I'm just going to point out to the members, E states, once a vote is cast, it may not be changed.
That's correct.
This has been permitted in the NNE guidelines before, but now the board is saying, the members voted.
It's not on the board,
This
it's the
will
members
not-
voted on this last
This will
year.
not be allowed anymore. Once you cast your ballot, it will stand.
That's correct. There was one other minor, but it's not worth mentioning.
Okay.
You wouldn't notice it by reading. Otherwise,
All right, so would you like to make a motion to approve?
yes, I
this?
move that the document as included in the packet, which are the bylaws, including the approved amendments from the 2018 AGM, be approved by the board as a correct statement of the state of the bylaws currently, so that they can be published on the website for the use of the members.
Second.
Okay, wait a second. Yeah, Carol?
Yes, second. I have a question regarding that.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
you were to tell us which pages, that includes all of these?
Oh, yeah, it's the
okay,
entire
that's-
document.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, is all the way through to 56.
That's right. And
Okay.
again, the document is numbered 1 through 26, and also in your packet, it's numbered 29 through 54.
Got it. Oh, 54, got it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did we touch on the page 10 of the bylaws with the highlighting?
That is a second question that the Document Review Committee has requested be referred to council to see what are our options for dealing with that.
I thought I had forwarded to you his answer on that.
You have? I haven't seen it.
Oh, all right, I'll send it again.
Yeah, better send it again. I have not yet. Well, it depends on when you send it. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm not understanding, we're voting on this entire document, and it's
As you see it.
as I see it, with the highlighting.
With the highlightings, because that was approved
The board
at an
approved that before.
earlier version, earlier draft.
Members approved it, right?
No,
Well,
the
no,
members
no,
didn't.
this is
they
just
did.
a warning to the reader.
Right,
And
I see.
if you'll recall, we had long
That's right,
discussion
that's
about
right.
this.
Okay.
We did not change the bylaws in any way. We are simply pointing to the RCWs and saying, this will override what's in
Got it.
here. But we're
That's
not
right.
changing the bylaws. Sarah?
I guess I'm wondering what in relation to this did we send to the attorney? And if we still have a question, I feel like we still have a question if it was sent to the attorney, so.
Not quite. There were two questions for the attorney. The first one was only, how do we deal with the typos that were in the ballot proposed measures? And those are dealt with in this document. That's taken care of, over and done with. The second question is, how do we deal with the impact of Wakaiowa on our bylaws? There is what we have notified the community already. Clearly, that one paragraph is no longer in effect. There are some other changes scattered throughout the bylaws that relate to that, such as any language dealing with timelines for voting, anything having to do with the reserve study. Those things are now applicable. And again, to be clear, or to give further background, the legislature adopted a technical amendment to Wakaiowa this year that was signed into effect, and it clarified that we are in fact subject to the Wakaiowa requirements for reserve studies. It wasn't clear last year. It is now clear. So the question for the attorney is simply, what do we do? Do we have to send those to the community for a vote? Or because the state statute says it superseded anything else, do we simply have to reword the bylaws to fit the law? What do we do? So we're asking
So the
for his
question is
opinion.
actually a little more generic than that. It is in any case where the RCWs do supersede what is in our bylaws, how do we treat that?
Yeah.
Do we have authority to actually change the bylaws or does it have to go to a vote of the members?
That's
So we will
correct.
get that answer and bring that back later.
So just a comment back to that then, related to the same conversation, the same reason I voted against it when we did it. We put a note in here for this specific part of it, but there are other pieces of this that are affected by Wekiwa, and we didn't put notes in there regarding that. And when the attorney was here, so the last I know from the attorney, he specifically said not to change our bylaws.
Well, we're not proposing any other notices to folks. The one notice that was in there is based on last year's statute, because that's all we had in front of us at the time this notice was drafted up. It's last year's statute. And that hasn't changed. The voting number for approval of a budget is exactly the way that it was last year. That clearly is different from what our bylaws are. All of the other things that I referred to, we haven't even decided where they are, what they might be. There's no proposal on the table at all. We're looking for instructions from our attorney. What do we do now? And then when we get that, the document review committee will try and go through and make whatever changes that the attorney suggests we should make. And if the attorney says it goes for a vote, that's what'll happen. If the attorney says the board should go ahead and do it, that's what we'll propose by motion to the board. And it'll be voted on by the board. But that's not yet.
Yeah.
Also, should note that this year, Wekiwa did have some changes made to it. They were technical in nature. And with respect to the reserve study applicability to Sudden Valley and other timelines. However, this new version of Wekiwa doesn't go into effect until later this summer. So we can't.
Yeah, it would be early to make those changes anyway. That's a good point. Good point.
Okay, Mike, you're good?
Yeah, Madam President, we have Paula and Whitney with questions.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to be clear, because it seems like we kind of got off on a little bit. Right now, the motion that is on the table, to my understanding, the items that are highlighted, this is something that's already been approved by the board. This isn't even in conversation right now. Right. The changes that we're voting on to say this is what we're moving forward with is the lettering.
The changes that the phrasing and language that we're approving today is to include everything the community voted on last year, number one, and merely to renumber 2 of those paragraphs
Nothing
to
else
reflect
in pages
consistency.
29 to 54 has been changed or updated or anything else.
That's correct.
It's this and the language and the numbering.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Paul, Whitney? No? Okay. Okay. Any further questions?
Call the question.
Okay, with no objection, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in favor. Opposed? 1 is opposed. Thank you. Okay, the next item is this policy number 19 from 1997. Is this something that was recommended by the DRC?
No, this is something that has come up due to both my position on the DRC and the fact that I've observed controversy in the community down through the last several months, many months, since last year, regarding the Marina Dog Park and the Marina Dog Park, right. And the fact that there is a policy right now, 1997.07, that is now over 20 years old, has not ever in the time that I have been here been followed, much less enforced. And I'll just move right now that we delete that policy. A replacement policy hasn't been made yet, is not for this discussion today. It's just, let's take that thing away because it has caused and continues to cause confusion in people who look for something having to do with the Marina Dog Park. We know that's not it.
Was this the policy that was brought to the board when we discussed the dog park 6 months or so ago?
It was shown to the board, yes.
All right, yes, okay. That was part of the discussion then.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Move to table until we have the policy in front of us to actually discuss it.
Second.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right, and then item under new business and voting is necessary. The stormwater utility district has been created by the county council, and discussions have been going on with, I think it was 5 volunteers over the last 18 months or something like that, having to do with how to fund it, et cetera, where the money should come from. This is a letter that I have sent to the county council having to do with this, this stormwater utility district. As president of the Sudden Valley Community Association, I am concerned that the proposed fee structure for the new Lake Whatcom Stormwater Utility District will result in our residents being double charged. As the council move through your deliberations of the proposed fee, please consider the following. The Sudden Valley Community Association has for decades been one of the only and arguably the largest entities beside the city of Bellingham itself that has prioritized and spent significant amounts of money to address water quality issues and has taken actions that significantly impact the mitigation of phosphorus in the watershed. This has been done at significant planning and implementation costs that have been borne solely by the association and its members. While the city has had the benefit of public financial resources, the average $500,000 per year that Sudden Valley Community Association has spent has been financed by the dues that are paid by each member of the association. No publicly funded road or flood fund has been available to accomplish these mitigation activities. In creating the utility district, the county determined that the city of Bellingham should not be included because of activities that they have implemented over the years towards the goal of water quality. The idea was obviously that implementing a fee on top of what they have already been paying for would be paramount to double charging the city of Bellingham residents in an unfair and inequitable manner. We strongly believe that imposing the proposed fee on Sudden Valley and its members would essentially have the same effect. We believe that the management and dues-paying members of the association who have borne the financial impact of these mitigation activities and will continue to do so will likewise question this clear double charge. Considering these facts, we urge that the council reconsider the Sudden Valley Community Association and its residents from any rate responsibility for amounts of phosphorus that have been and will be prevented from entering the lake. Given the precedent that the county itself has set in exempting the city of Bellingham, it is difficult to understand how the same consideration should not be extended to Sudden Valley. Additionally, we are asking that the council commit to allowing the members of Sudden Valley to benefit from the homeowners incentive program that is funded by the proposed fee. Sudden Valley is home to over 7,000 residents on 3,200 lots, several of which are directly on the lake shore, and all member residents are concerned about and active protectors of the watershed. Under the proposed fee, Sudden Valley will contribute a significant amount of funding for the HIP, and extending this program to such a significant paying population will be reasonable, equitable, and a benefit to the entire watershed. We understand there are many considerations to your deliberations. We ask, however, that you remember that the Sudden Valley Community Association and its membership are a vital and active part of the lake watershed, as well as of the overall county community that prides itself on its commitment to the environment. We have long put our money where our heart is. Thus, we ask that you take our consideration in your process that asking any Sudden Valley resident or the Sudden Valley Community Association to be a significant contributor to this fee, especially in light of Bellingham's exemption, is essentially an unreasonable, inequitable double charge to a community long successfully contributing to water quality and phosphorus mitigation. This is going to come before the county council. Can you give us some dates on this, Larry?
Yes, they had a committee meeting of the council this week on Tuesday. That was the Finance and Administration Committee. I presented the letter to them at that time. I will say there were several other issues that they discussed regarding this fee. They clearly did not get finished with their discussions. As a result, they have delayed a vote from June to July. That's at least a proposed date. Again, it might be delayed again, who knows? The number of issues that they thought they were, or that staff thought the council was going to discuss this week got expanded from 3 to at least 5, and with Sudden Valley's issue, possibly 6. So there is another meeting. It's called a Committee of the Whole, and they will have that in 2 weeks, or 2 weeks from this last Tuesday, so it'll be the second Tuesday coming
Will
up.
there be an opportunity for public comment at that?
I doubt that very seriously.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I will endeavor to attend and make any public comment that I possibly can. Now, there are 2 areas where the council desperately needs education. Number one, there is the thought that, well, the county couldn't charge Bellingham because they could only charge people in the watershed, which is, perhaps the person who said that was misunderstanding.
Where Bellingham is?
Bellingham is in the watershed, so
Yes, it
that's a
is.
significant problem. The other comment that had been made earlier, not this week, but earlier, is that Sudden Valley doesn't deserve any consideration for the effort that it's gone through and the money that it's expended, because over the last decades it has underfunded and supported its own infrastructure. I find that kind of, I think the English call it gobsmacking, because of course that has absolutely nothing to do, how well we took care of the barn has absolutely nothing to do with the work that we did on the marina, the work that we did at Polo Park Bridge, the work that we did out there in opening up a creek. So there's some clear issues to be dealt with. The politics, the HIP program, Homeowners Incentive Program, duplicative phrase, there has been no decision on whether it is going to be applicable to people in basins 2 and 3 outside of Geneva. So far, Bellingham funded it while it was in Geneva because that's Bellingham's UGA. It's likely to be extended outside of that, and we are possibly eligible for getting that. That's purely up to the
Sounds
county.
like we need some more education for the council.
We just absolutely have to
When
stay.
will public comment be?
The only official input for public comment is, I am afraid to say, the day that they vote on this, which is now they're meeting in July, there is what's called a public hearing before the vote. And so they will listen to public input, and then sometime later in the meeting they'll vote. I personally believe that's far too late. I think
thought that there was a public meeting on, was it June 18th or something like that, or has that been?
Not to my recollection.
Okay.
I believe the only dates for June were a public hearing and a possible vote.
Okay. Paula?
If community members were interested in making anything known, would the address on the letter be a good place to send, if other than public comment, to 311 Grand Street, Suite 105, Bellingham 98225 by chance?
At the very least.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
There is also I mean, they have a website. Go on the website. I don't want to misstate the email address, but there's an email address that anybody can use. I encourage people to use that email address. I mean, again, Sudden Valley residents are going to be paying very directly, both as individual property owners and as members of Sudden Valley. So whatever the fee for somebody in Geneva, we're going to be paying more, because everybody owns a chunk of Sudden Valley. So I encourage everybody to say something, and when there is a public hearing, I encourage everybody to go and address the
We will
council.
publish that information as we find it.
We will keep the community aware.
Okay. Eric?
No, and also Paula.
I
Eric,
just-
Eric first.
Yeah. Okay. Just as a follow-up, I wanted to, what is the Sudden Valley burden that is anticipated for this, just to give some people?
Well, all we have is an estimate. And I would
correct.
call it a very rough
Right.
estimate. And it also brings in how the proposal for implementing this fee is. The first year, it would be only half of the recommended rate. The second year would be the full rate. So the full rate right now is estimated at approximately $40,000 for Sudden Valley. So the first year would be $20,000, then it would go up. Do you mind? Staff from the county is meeting with the GM tomorrow to kind of walk through what they view as the billable impervious surface area owned by Sudden Valley. And also to talk about the possibility, which they believe is more firm than I've ever heard before, that actually a water management project will be funded by the county and built inside Sudden Valley. They say the budgeting has been approved, although that has been delayed several times.
They've been talking about that for 2 years.
It's at least, I think it was originally proposed in 2013, it got delayed, now they say it's 2024, but the staff believes that it's going to happen, and it's certainly better than if the only facilities to be built were to be built in Basin 2, not doing any benefit to Basin 3. So they're going to meet with the GM tomorrow. I plan on being there to kind of hear what they have to say, and we'll ask them a bunch of questions, such as Leslie mentioned, they think this is a done deal, but they don't have a project design, they don't have a location even, and it's been delayed in the
I wouldn't even
past.
count on that.
You said that the people in the county felt that we have not been good stewards of the lake. Where did
Good
that
stewards
idea-
of our infrastructure.
But the community, but why would they tie that to the water?
The best that I can say is a statement made by another counselor saying that they had spoken with a well-known engineering company that Sudden Valley has made use of, who shall remain unnamed at this point in time, and were directed to take a look at a study by Western University in 2000, actually it was November 2004, published in January 2005, which according to this engineering outfit shows that Sudden Valley is contributing a large amount of phosphorus. Now, I have read that report, and I do not read it the same way. And I would need to meet with those engineers and understand the context in which they're putting it and why the context I'm putting it is inaccurate. Now, I have to admit, I'm not an engineer, but I have dealt with engineering studies in much of my career. I have some familiarity with reading them, and I need to understand why they are telling county councilors that, oh no, we're doing bad things.
What about the other two basins? What's our parts coming in?
Explain what you mean more.
How much, the other two, there's three basins in the lake, correct? That they, Basin 1, Basin 2, we sit in 3.
The only thing that anybody agrees is Basin 1 is terrible, Basin 2 is bad.
Okay.
Basin 3 doesn't seem to be bad.
Are they not the city of Bellingham's responsibility?
Basin 1 is the city of Bellingham's responsibility. Basin 2 is the county's.
Bellingham draws its water supply from Basin 2, and we have better quality water. Because we come out here to where the lake is deepest and coldest, and, you know,
In years past,
Yeah.
the city has had to deal with algae blooms
Yeah.
and in their drinking water, or that has affected their drinking water, and they've had to increase the chlorine to clean it up, which has left bad taste in the water. And so, as a result, they're now building an enormous pre-treatment plant to try and make sure that that doesn't happen again. However, there haven't been any recent algae blooms, so, you know, they're spending a lot of money to deal with a problem that somebody created, and the argument is who has created it? And the difficulty is it's one lake. Yes, there are 3 basins, but there is only one lake. And the EPA has said it is impaired and it needs to be cleaned. And so the county is in charge of basins 2 and 3, and this is their proposal for doing something. Again, the fee is to be used for maintenance of the facility after it's been built. Would not pay for building. That comes from separate funds that everybody in the county pays for.
I have a different understanding on that, but that's.
Well, in any event, my understanding it comes from the road fund and the flood fund, and everybody pays into that. That's where those projects have been built so far, and my understanding is the primary projects to be built are in Basin 2. Now we have a conversation to go through regarding a possible project in Sudden Valley.
Eric, you have something?
There's an election at the end of this year, and how many council seats are open?
I don't recall, yeah.
Brent knows.
I think it's 4.
4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
3 districts, 1 at large.
Yeah.
right. Well, it would make sense to me to start educating the candidates.
The one counselor who is representing Sudden Valley, I think we're in District 5. Actually, it was confirmed at this meeting. He said, I have a conflict of interest, but I'm going to still participate in the discussion. I am a resident of Sudden Valley. And so Tyler Bird does actually, I knew he had property here, he does actually live here now. That's clear. So he, I think, needs a little more education, but not nearly as much as some of the folks who live in Bellingham and sort of aren't really familiar with the minutia of what goes on out here.
My understanding is this vote will take place before the election, so.
Yeah, the best we can do is to hope that they might change their mind after the election. I mean, that's a possibility, but look, the county has to do something. I mean, it has to do something.
As Paula said, I would encourage anybody who wants to, write, talk to your county councilman. And when we find out some more dates on.
Talk to Tyler
public
Bird.
Comment period.
The name is
we'll
Tyler
let you know.
Bird. Again, the name is Tyler Bird.
Do you want me to repeat the address real quick?
If you would like to find it, it is in the board packet, it's in the last pages.
And there's good you've got good information in your letter to pull from for a letter.
Okay, all right. Anything else on this subject? Nothing? All right, moving on to property owner comments. Are we back? No? Fine. Board comments? Nobody wants to say anything?
Move to.
I'll say something real quick.
Oh, hey, yield to.
Okay, so we're printing the views next week Thursday, which is kind of a hard date because Friday is all filled up. So if anybody wants to stop in and actually see it printing, feel free. I can email you with times, but just send me an email and I can let you know when it'll be. Because it's kind of cool if you've never seen it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's only 3 candidates, by the way.
Only 3.
I just looked at it.
Move to wrap this up.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. I'm sure that you all agree with that, and so the meeting will adjourn at 8:40.